What is up, DW Nation? I hope you guys had a good week. This is Asante Grundy coming to you guys with another, not fresh, but another WWE Monday Night Raw recap. You know what time it is. So, starting off, we have Randy Orton talking about last week. And Randy Orton has a mask on because if anyone didn't see last week, Randy Orton actually had fire thrown in his face last week by Alexa Bliss. And Randy suffered first degree burns. So that's why he's wearing a mask during this episode. But Randy is pretty much talking about, oh yeah, this is all the Fiend's doing. He's the reason why I got fire put in my face because Alexa did the dirty work for him. So yeah, Randy's in a mask right now, covering up all his burns. But he was just saying, like, yeah, the Fiend just doesn't want me to reach that stardom again. He doesn't want me to reach the inevitable, as quoted by Randy. And I guess there's some sort of vengeance coming for Randy because Randy is not happy right now, and I wouldn't want to stand in Randy Orton's way right now. So, we have our first match of the night. We have Peyton Royce versus Charlotte Flair, and this was a pretty solid match as I enjoyed this one. And it starts off with Peyton Royce just dominating Charlotte Flair, making her presence felt early, but then Charlotte, she catches some momentum and she starts dominating Peyton Royce and she's trying to make her presence felt as well. But then Ric Flair comes out with Lacey Evans, and Lacey Evans is all decked out in robes similar to what Charlotte and Rick would wear. Like, Lacey is clearly making fun of Charlotte Flair, and Charlotte Flair ain't happy about that. So after the commercial break, it goes back to the match between Peyton Royce and Charlotte Flair, and they both deal equal amount of damage to each other, and Charlotte comes out on top on this match as she delivers a figure 8 to Peyton Royce, and Peyton Royce taps out on this one, and Charlotte just sent a message to the women's division, like, she's a serious threat to win the Royal Rumble. I would not be surprised if she came out on top because she's trying to make a statement, and she definitely made a statement last night on Raw. But the women need to look out for Charlotte Flair. That's for dang sure. So we have our next match of the night. We have Xavier Woods versus Mace. And before this match, Mustafa Ali had a nice little promo saying, like, hey Xavier, I'm going to injure you like I did Kofi Kingston, so you better look out. But then after that, it's the start of the match, and pretty much this match was just dominated by Mace. This match didn't really move me, but Xavier Woods, he takes the L on this one by Mace, and like I said, this match just didn't really move me as Retribution looks strong again, and seems like week after week they just keep getting stronger. So after the match, we have the WrestleMania report by Triple H and Stephanie McMahon, and they're here to give us the news that they have the locations for the next couple WrestleManias. So this year, WrestleMania is returning to the Bay Area in Tampa Bay. Now, last year, it was initially supposed to be in Tampa Bay, but the pandemic happened, and it was the early stages of the pandemic, so there wasn't any fans allowed. So hopefully this year we can get a decent amount of fans, and it can be a really good WrestleMania. And also next year, for 2022, WrestleMania will be in Arlington, Texas, at AT&T Stadium where the Dallas Cowboys play. And after that, in 2023, we have our next WrestleMania location, which will be in Hollywood, California. And I'm glad they figured this all out because WrestleMania initially this year was supposed to be in California, in Hollywood, but the pandemic threw a wrench in all those plans, but I'm glad they were able to figure out ways to move around this, and I'm excited for these next locations, solid 3 next locations. So next up we have Alexa Bliss's Playground, and she starts off by saying like, "Hey Randy, I just wanted to talk, but things got heated." But fire, heated. Randy got fire in his face. Things got heated. I mean, great joke by Alexa. But also Alexa's guest for the night is Asuka, which she will be facing on later on in the singles match later on throughout the night. But she tells Asuka like, "Hey, I'm entering in the Royal Rumble, and if I win, that means I get to face you at WrestleMania." And Asuka says, "Hey, I would be honored to face you at WrestleMania." But just a creative segment by Alexa, and I just love how entertaining she is. So after that, we have an interview by Miz and Morrison from Sarah Schreiber, and Miz and Morrison says they have something special planned for later on tonight for Goldberg. So you just have to stay tuned and watch through my recap, as I'll tell you what happens. It's pretty funny what happens during it, but I will get to that later on during this recap. So our next match of the night, we have Shayna Baszler versus Mandy Rose with Dana Brooke and Nia Jax at ringside. But before this match, Shayna kicks a small little promo saying like, "Hey Mandy, I'm gonna beat you again tonight like I did last week, and last week I threw you away like a can of empty White Claws." So obviously Shayna means business tonight. So what she did was Shayna pretty much dominated this whole match. She attacked Mandy Rose's arm and injuring it, giving Mandy Rose a disadvantage. Mandy was able to get some offense in on one arm, but it just wasn't enough against Shayna Baszler, as Shayna delivers the Kirifuda clutch and Mandy taps out. Then after the match, Nia Jax and Shayna, they both get kicked by Dana Brooke, and obviously they're not happy after that. But this match, it was just mainly dominant by Shayna Baszler. It didn't move me too much, and I expected that result. But also, Shayna Baszler, she's definitely a threat to win the Royal Rumble, and she just put the whole women's division on notice as well, just like Charlotte. But Shayna Baszler and Charlotte Flair, those are two women you gotta look out for during the Royal Rumble. And after this match, we have Shayna and Nia Jax in an interview, and they pretty much stated like, "Hey, we want a rematch for the tag team belts." But they also stated they have never gotten along during when they were champions, and I see a feud coming from these two real soon. I'm predicting that WrestleMania is when this feud occurs, because that would be a banger of a match. Nia Jax versus Shayna Baszler at Mania. Whew, I would just love to see that. But we'll see what happens. Could be earlier, could be later. But my dream scenario, Shayna Baszler versus Nia Jax, WrestleMania. Book it, Vince. So, after that, we have a interview between Sarah Schreiber and Charlotte Flair, and Charlotte pretty much states like everything was given to her on a silver platter because of her last name, and pretty much she says to Lacey like, "Hey Lacey, you're only using my dad to get to me. You may wear my robes, but you can't take my crown." And Charlotte means business right there. She ain't playing. But I love this feud between Lacey and Charlotte. Hopefully it can spice up a little bit more. But I definitely am enjoying this feud between Charlotte and Lacey. So after that, we have an interview between Adam Pearce, AJ Styles, and Ricochet. And Ricochet is pretty much saying like, hey, I'm a worthy opponent for this Royal Rumble match. I'm someone to look out for. AJ Styles, on the other hand, disagrees with that statement, which sets up for our next match and my favorite match of the night, AJ Styles versus Ricochet. And this was a banger. And how it starts off is that Ricochet, he starts giving AJ Styles the work at first, but then AJ, he gets some momentum and he starts showing that veteran experience by he delivers a knee to the neck and also a brainbuster. But Ricochet was able to kick out of that. Then he gains some momentum and he actually counters the phenomenal elbow by AJ Styles, which not many wrestlers can do that. Counter the phenomenal elbow from AJ. But it wasn't enough for Ricochet as AJ bounces Ricochet off of the rope to deliver a Styles Clash, a beautiful Styles Clash. And this match was a banger. I would definitely recommend watching this match if anyone has not seen it. But yeah, even though Ricochet lost, he's still definitely a worthy opponent. That is one of the best matches I've seen from Ricochet. Next up, we have the dirt sheet by Miz and Morrison. And this segment was funny because how he gets at Goldberg is that Goldberg's music plays, you would think it's Goldberg, but actually it's a knockoff Goldberg. Some random guy dressed up as Goldberg would dress, but, you know, it's supposed to be funny. Then Drew McIntyre's music plays, so you're thinking like, oh, Drew McIntyre's back? Nope, that's not the case. So we get a knockoff Drew McIntyre as well. And we get this fat, pretty much out of shape knockoff Drew McIntyre. And obviously these were jabs at Goldberg and Drew McIntyre conducted by Miz and Morrison. And what they say is pretty much, hey, they're both going to lose their match. You know why? Because I'm going to cash in and I'm going to win the belt. And just brilliant creativity by Miz and Morrison. I just love them both. They did their thing. So we have our next match of the night is Lucha House Party and Matt Riddle versus the Hurt Business. And earlier in the show, Matt Riddle, he had a little segment with the Hurt Business saying like, hey guys, I admire how y'all dress and stuff. Y'all look fly and all that. But Bobby Lashley didn't want to hear that as he stepped on Matt Riddle's foot during that segment. So Matt Riddle retaliates as like, yeah, I'm going to get you back later on in this match. So now here's the match. We have Lucha House Party and Matt Riddle versus the Hurt Business. And this was a solid match. I was expecting Matt Riddle and the Lucha House Party to come out on top, but that wasn't the case as Bobby Lashley delivers a full Nelson to Metallic of the Lucha House Party and the Hurt Business gets the win. So after they get the win, Matt Riddle kicks Bobby Lashley to get revenge on him for what Bobby did last week and earlier in the show. Matt Riddle had a solid performance in this match, but it just wasn't enough to beat the Hurt Business as the Hurt Business looked dominant again. So next up, we just have a small little announcement from the WWE Champion Drew McIntyre, and all he says is that he's going to be returning to the ring next week. For those who don't know, Drew McIntyre tested positive last week for COVID-19, so he was out last week and he was out last night. But he just wanted to make the announcement saying that he'll be back next week in action. So, our next match, we have Jackson Riker versus Jeff Hardy. And this was pretty much reminiscent of last week because Riker beats Jeff Hardy again, and it just seems like Hardy cannot beat this dude. But I like Jackson Riker. He's very talented. I like this. I would hope the sky's the limit for him. But yeah, this match was mainly dominated by Jackson Riker. Hardy had a few flashes, but it just wasn't enough to overcome Jackson Riker, and Riker looks really good right now. So, lastly, we have our final match of the night. We have Alexa Bliss versus Asuka. And Asuka tries to make her presence felt early by going for the shiny wizard early, but Alexa Bliss kicks out of that. So Alexa's all happy, smiley, and jolly and everything. But then the lights go dark. They don't get completely pitch black dark, but it's dark. So after commercial break, we see Alexa Bliss. She's transformed into a female Bray Wyatt, I would say. And she just starts dodging all of Asuka's moves, and she even imitates Bray Wyatt a little bit by hanging on the rope a little bit. But pretty much Alexa Bliss comes out on top on this one as she delivers a Sister Abigail just like Bray Wyatt would do, and she gets the win on this one. And I just love the creativity by Alexa Bliss on this one, and she's very entertaining in this one. I love Alexa Bliss. She is just so fun to watch, and I love this gimmick by her. And that concludes this episode of Monday Night Raw Recap. I'm Asante Grundy from Disciples of Wrestling, and I will see you guys next week. Love you guys. Take care and be safe.